the other day.
He's affirmatification.
I'm gonna put cash and shit.
Do it. Oh my god, I'm gonna put it too.
Can you guys please stop?
You a jocker, just be original.
Well, using his running.
There's a guy at the door. Bro, we trying to debate.
He's the judge.
I got it. We need to
Bro, he's trying to debate.
Guys, it is like our video is running. Like I am ready to begin as of like right now.
Watch me at destiny.yahoo.com.
Before I
Watch you at Yahoo.com.
All right.
Okay, so before I begin, I would like to define the following terms. Capital punishment, also known as death penalty or execution, is punishment by death, usually carried out by lethal injection, electric chair, or a firing squad, etc. Life imprisonment, also known as life sentence without parole, is a sentence condemning a convicted felon to spend the rest of his or her life in prison. On Quora.com, an inmate from San Quentin State Prison, named Tommy Winfrey was able to tell us what it's like in prison. Quote, some people cannot understand how it feels to spend one night in prison, let alone years or decades, or even decades. I wish I was one such soul, but my life took a different direction at a young age. Clearly, after spending some time in prison, he was able to think about what he did, and now he's feeling regret. Basically for him now. Because his biggest punishment is regretting his actions, decisions, and knowing that he'll never have a chance at freedom again. And that is a huge punishment. Let me see. Alright, so I lost track of it. Spending even a small amount of time in an overcrowded, dangerous California prison, or any in this case, is unpleasant. Why, if you were to have death penalty, your death would be quick and too easy for you. Another thing about death penalty is, it actually costs significantly more than life imprisonment. So let me ask you, how do you feel about paying more in taxes for a form of punishment when you can buy less for a more efficient way? When you can pay less for a more efficient way? A source stating that California taxpayers pays $90,000 more for persons on a death row than life imprisonment prisoners. Even that, about a quarter of death row prisoners die of natural causes in prison rather than by the executioner. Another reason why we should not have used the death penalty is because that about 4.1% of those executed by death penalty was later to be proven innocent. That's about 325 people out of 8,000, and that is considered a big amount of people, considering that we killed an innocent and spent all that money and all that time to kill an innocent. Who knows how many more people are innocent? I mean, how would you feel if one of your family members was executed but was later to be found innocent? After all those years, all the hassle, all the worries, how would you feel if they were to be found innocent years later, but was already too late? I'm now open for cross-examination.
Are you aware that prisons have free meals, education, and other things that prisoners can have?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Well, that's what happens. Kind of cushy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I also, if an animal attacked your animal or a person in your family and hurt them, would you put the dog down?
It depends how severely hurt by.
So if the person had to go to the hospital and get stitches, would you put the dog down?
No, only if they repeat it.
So if they hurt them again, then you would put them down?
Yes, that's when I would put them down. But if it's just a one-time thing, I would not put them down and just forgive them.
So if it was severe, you would put them down?
No, I would not.
You wouldn't put them down?
No, I would not, because they're not dead. Unless they're dead, I would not put the animal down.
So you'd wait till the family member is dead to put the
I would
dog
not
down?
even wait for the family member dead. If the animal attacks my family member again, that's when I will put them down.
So inevitably, it would probably happen again, so you would put them down.
But how would you know if it will happen again?
I'm done with the That makes no sense. Oh, I forgot. Okay. Alright. So, imagine receiving a phone call that your close relative had just recently died. Then later you find out they were murdered in cold blood. Would you rather see that criminals sit in jail being provided free meals, education, entertainment such as TV, and the participation in interest groups, or put to death to pay for their crime? The death penalty should remain an act and is more beneficial to society. The death penalty is currently legal in 31 states, but there should be more. One reason being is because it costs an enormous amount of taxpayer money to keep someone in prison for life. According to the New York Times, quotes, aggregate costs of prisons in 2010 in the 40 states that participated was $39 billion. The annual average taxpayer cost in these states was $31,286 per inmate, and New York State was the most expensive with the average cost of $60,000 per inmate, unquote. The death penalty also brings a warning to all criminals. According to listverse.com, quotes, in a large sense, capital punishment is the ultimate warning against all crimes, end quotes. If the criminal knows that the justice system won't stop at putting he or she to death, then they may think twice about committing the crime. A good example of this is that 4 of the top 5 most dangerous cities in the United States of 2015 are states where the death penalty is banned. According to Gallup.com, quotes, a solid majority of Americans, around 63%, still favor using the death penalty in murder convictions, generally consistent with the level of support found over the last decade, end quotes. Lastly, the death of the criminal brings justice and closure to the family of the victim. For example, when Brooks Douglas, a teenager, when Brooks Douglas was a teenager, 2 men barged into his home, took his family hostage, raped his sister, and killed his parents in front of him. Later, the man who did this terrible crime was put to death. Douglas stated that seeing Hatch, the man who killed his parents and raped his sister, executed, brought him a sense of closure. All in all, the death penalty should remain an act and be enforced in more states due to its sufficient results. I am now open for cross-ex.
Hey, Lauren. Are you aware that information that you stated about how life imprisonment is more expensive than death penalty is inaccurate?
What?
Are you aware that information that you stated about how death penalty, how life imprisonment is more expensive than death penalty is inaccurate?
I didn't state that it was more expensive. I was just stating the cost of how much it would be in life imprisonment.
So you're saying that life imprisonment does not cost as much as death penalty?
I'm not saying that. I'm just stating how much it costs taxpayers to keep someone in prison for life.
But do you know that? Are you aware that people who are on the death row actually stays in prison for about 15 years until they're executed, and most of them die in prison anyways before they even meet the executioner?
I wasn't aware.
Okay. And like you said in my like you asked me in the cross-ex, are you aware that the taxes that people pay is to educate the people who are committing the crime so they won't commit the crimes again, and they have to give them a free meal, obviously.
Wait, what? That's not a question.
The taxes that we pay. No, I'm done. You can go now. I'll just say it. Okay. Can I go? Alright, so anyways, like the negative stated, about the cause of life imprisonment. Like I stated in my first constructive, death penalty costs a lot more than life imprisonment. And many inmates from there actually have specified that life imprisonment is a much more cruel, much more severe punishment than death penalty. And another thing how they stated how there's only like 31 states that has allowed death penalty, and how the crime rate goes up and down in those states. And you know what I'm talking about, like how crime rates in states that does not have death penalty is higher. Well, correlation does not imply causation. Okay, there are many factors on why in those states that crime rates are lower, such as maybe they have higher they have more police officers, and maybe they have like laws that implies or something, or they're just naturally have a lower crime rate, which is possible. And we also have to put in the we also have to put in the population factor. So correlation does not imply causation. And let's see. Yep, and like I said about the taxes thing, about how they have free education and free meals. If we're to keep the prisoners in prison, we have to educate them to tell them what they did was wrong. If we don't educate them, who will? You know? And we also, of course, we still have to feed them in order for them to learn and to stay alive to learn those stuff. Okay, I'm done.
Going against what the affirmative stated about the correlation between the crime rates and the death penalty. I would like to state that on neighborhoodscout.com, Michigan is a state without the death penalty, and we have 2 cities on there that are ranked two of the top 5 most dangerous cities. Kind of see correlation there. About what he said about them needing education in prison to know what they did wrong, shouldn't they already know that since they're in prison? And I also would like to restate that that it does cost taxpayers a bunch of money per inmate. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know, I'm done.
As I stated in my last rebuttal, correlation does not imply causation. Michigan is rated the top 2 cities that are like the highest crime rate. Does not mean that just because we don't have a death penalty does not mean that crime rate is going to be lower. Like I said, actually, I have evidence here from deathpenalty.info.org. 88% of criminologists do not believe that death penalty is an effective determinant. Meaning, even if we take death penalty away, that does not mean that that does not mean. I mean, like, even if we instate death penalty in it, that does not mean that crime is gonna go down. Even with death penalty in there, there's still crime gonna happen. There's still gonna be murder. So, and for prisoners that needs education, no, even if they go to prison, that doesn't mean they know what they did wrong. They're still gonna think they did it right. Educating them, meaning they're not gonna do anything, and they're going to learn better about themselves. You know, they're not gonna make any more wrongs. Yeah, be more right sometimes. I don't know how to word it, but you guys get my phrase. And and for the cost, how she stated again about how it costs so much to put prisoners to life imprisonment. People on the death row usually die in prison anyways before they can be the executioner. So basically, you are life imprisoning them, but you guys are spending much more money because you guys want to kill them after a short period of time. So.